Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to head over to America once again, and we're going to go to another brewery that I've never tried anything from. Now, these guys are another relatively new addition to their local beer scene, but they've built up a very good reputation for themselves over the last few years, and from what I gather, these guys are best known for their different kinds of lager beers and also for their kind of pale ales and IPAs and stuff like this. They're actually from a state that I haven't covered all that much on the channel, which is quite exciting as well, and this beer is one that I think could be very, very interesting. I don't think I've ever come across one quite like this before. So needless to say, I'm very, very curious to see what this beer is going to have in store for us. Hopefully it's another good beer. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always, I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, like I said, we are going to head over to America. We are going to go to what I believe can be termed the Midwest. So we're going to the state of Wisconsin and the city of Madison, and we're going to have a look then at my first beer from Working Draft Beer Company. So this particular beer is called Plume. It comes in at 5% ABV, and they're describing this one as a wild rice smoked lager. So yeah, this one should be pretty damn unique actually. I've had a number of rice lagers, which I've always really enjoyed. I've had quite a few smoked lagers as well, which is one of my favourite beer styles. So to see the two combined is pretty damn interesting. A massive thank you in this review to the lovely Miss Amanda, who brought this beer to Hong Kong with her from our trip over in America. So she made this one possible, and I'll be sharing this beer with her after I film the video. But yeah, she thought I would like this one, and she certainly wasn't wrong. So yeah, let's crack on with this one then and see how we go. Plume, a wild rice smoked lager, 5% ABV from Working Draft Beer Company in Madison, Wisconsin. So, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that hopefully I can do in the future from Working Draft Beer Company. This is the very first time I'm encountering these guys, as I mentioned, but there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated, and remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, province, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that though, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the American playlist along with a number of other things. That's being added to whenever I get the opportunity. And quite often, because we do get a good selection of American stuff here in Hong Kong, but do make sure you check out the playlist of beers from other countries as well, because there are some very interesting things on the channel these days, even if I do say so myself. So yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a wee bit about Working Draft Beer Company. So as I mentioned to you already, these guys are based in Madison, Wisconsin, and the company was founded back in 2018 by Ben Feifarek, Ryan Brown and Clint Lohman. So the co-founders of Working Draft each bring quite a unique background to the brewery. So Ben Feifarek's journey began with a push from his wife to try a little bit of home brewing, which was what really ignited his passion for not just drinking beer but brewing it as well. So after honing his skills at the Wine and Hop Shop, where he eventually became the owner in 2012, he wanted to create a space for brewers to collaborate. And Ryan Brown has a background in creative writing, and he was the CEO and brewing educator at the shop from 2011 onwards. But to complement their home brewing experiences and to get their kind of business off the ground, they recruited Clint Lohman, who is a professional brewer, and he had quite extensive experience, having previously worked at Vintage Brewing and at Wisconsin Brewing Company. But initially, the three of them fantasized about opening a brewery where they could enjoy spicy Thai food, and they started exploring business plans which would involve merging these ideas. But they wanted to kind of replicate the intimacy of home brewing, but put it on a commercial scale. So ultimately, they set their eyes on having a small brewery and tasting room. So the brewery started with a small 7-barrel brewing system, which is about 1,100 litres per brew for those of us who use the metric system. I'm always going to make fun of the way Americans measure things because it really makes no sense. But they had quite a few fermenters in there and some bright tanks, and they also have a pilot barrel system, a pilot system if you like, for small batches. But they apparently started off with plans to brew 800 barrels in their first year, and the facility had space for them to expand that up to 2,000 barrels a year. I understand they've expanded quite a little bit since they got the brewing operations under the ground, but we couldn't find a figure for their exact output to date. But yeah, Clint Lohman is the head brewer, along with the brewer and facility manager Miranda Ladvig. She joined the team in 2019, and they are the ones in charge of production, of course, and they mostly focus on the production of European style lagers, but with some IPAs and pale ales and things like this. So yeah, the heart of Working Draft Brewing Company is, of course, its beer company, sorry, knew I was going to make that mistake at some point. The heart of Working Draft is the tap room, which is designed with an open concept, and apparently it merges the tasting room and the brew house together, and they've got large communal tables, I think kind of similar to the big long ones you'd see at the beer halls and stuff like that in Europe. But they've got a bar top created from reclaimed wood from Madison's former Badger Bowl, and apparently you can get your beer straight from the tap. They'll let you try things from the tanks and stuff apparently as well. But yeah, they collaborate a lot with local artists. They've got an artist in residence program, and they've got space for exhibitions, acoustic performances, and poetry readings and stuff like this. And the tap room features unique furnishings, which are apparently crafted from restored solid maple wood that they got from Village Lanes in Monona, which is quite close to Madison as well. But the brewery has become very well known and very well respected in Madison for craft beer, and as of 2025, or May 2025, they have produced 140 different kinds of beer according to Untappd. But yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about Working Draft Beer Company for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a wee bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, I can take a breath now. That is everything that we need to talk about in the history section. So let's go on and have a little look at the beer itself. So the artwork on this one is pretty similar to what you'll see from a number of the Working Draft breweries' beers. The branding is pretty clever, actually. I have to admit, I quite like this thing where it looks, WD, but it looks like a kind of beer stein, if you like. That's pretty cool. And it works with the European lager kind of mantra, if you like, as well. So plain silver top on the can there. This one is 1 American pint, 16 fluid ounces. I still don't know what a fluid ounce is, but yeah, that is 473 millilitres for those of us who use the right measuring system. But yeah, it tells you on the side here, it gives you a little map to the brewery, actually, which is kind of cool. And it says, yeah, producing world-class European-style lagers and hop ales since 2018. But yeah, Blue Plume, a wild rice smoked lager. This should be pretty interesting. I'm guessing it's, yeah, wild rice, and then it's maybe a little bit of Weirmann smoked malt. I mean, the Americans produce a lot of their own malt, but I think they import a lot of the smoked stuff from Bamberg in Germany. We'll need to see. We'll be able to detect that in the taste. But yeah, let's get it out into the glass and see what it's all about. There we go. Yes, let's do this. So, for those of you who aren't aware, a lager, oh, that's not going to get much head on it, actually. We'll see. Just a little bit. So yeah, before the head disappears, actually, you can see that it poured with about a quarter finger of a kind of soapy, bubbly, cream-coloured head. I'll just let you see that. Not much in the way of head with this one, and that's just fading away to be pretty much nothing. Interesting. But yeah, the technical definition of a lager is a beer that uses bottom fermenting yeast, and it ferments at lower temperatures, usually 8 to 12 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but yeah, ales ferment using top fermenting yeast, and they're usually between sort of 15 and 18 degrees Celsius. So yeah, difference in brewing. Lagers, of course, take longer to make and mature because, chemistry. Lower temperatures, if you basically take the reaction temperature down 10 degrees, you're halving the rate of reaction almost. It's roughly that. That's what I was taught when I was studying. But yeah, anyway, this beer Really nice looking actually, lovely pale golden straw colour. Remember, the colour of your beer depends on a few different things. 1, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. 2, length of your wort boil is going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. But any barrel aging that you do or adjuncts you put into the beer will affect its colour as well. But yeah, you don't often have to care about that when it comes to lagers. When it comes to, I mean, this one has wild rice added into it, and when it comes to rice lagers, they are mostly this kind of very bright blonde colour actually. So the colour of this one makes sense. I would have thought maybe the smoked malt might have given it a slightly darker colour, but yeah, I have seen fairly, if I think about some of the ones I had in Bamberg in Germany, some of them were pretty blonde actually, the Rauch beers. So yeah, not too much in the way of visible carbonation with this one. The glass is sweating a wee bit because of the heat, but yeah, this one is pretty much crystal clear. Just a very, very, very slight haze to this one. But yeah, it certainly looks nice. I don't think we need to say much more about the appearance of this one, so let's have a wee look at the aroma then and just see how we go. Alright, okay. It's very, I'd say it's very mild in its aroma. It's not overly pungent, but you can certainly you can get that wee bit of smokiness, and you get that nice wee bit of oily rice to it. And I grew to love the rice lagers just from my time in Japan. The Japanese rice lagers were really, really good. Although most of the craft breweries there were brewing the IPAs and stuff like this. But yeah, aroma-wise, this beer is really pretty damn nice actually, but very subtle, I would hasten to add. So yeah, let's just break it down then and describe it for you a wee bit more in depth. So it tells you that the hops in this one are Magnum and Striezelspalt, which is one that I've never heard of actually. I should have looked at that. I never saw that on the can before we opened up. I should have looked that up. But yeah, the backbone of this beer, you've got a lovely little bit of like fresh white bready bread crust in this one. You do get little hints of like wood and cracker, which you very, very often get in these ones. I will say that I can tell straight away this is European malt that's in here. American malt tends to be a little bit more sort of oily, if you like, but this beer definitely shows you the European, the dryness of European malt. You can get that right away. So there's a little bit of like wholemeal brown bread in there. You can absolutely get a kind of fluffier white bready character out of it. Yeah, fresh white bready bread crust, little bit of wood, little bit of cracker, wholemeal brown bread, fluffy white bread in there. And then above that, you do get little hints of, there's a little hint of a kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity character coming out of this one, which I do really quite like. So yeah, lovely little bit of that in there. There's a wee touch of, I want to say maybe a little touch of honey in there, but further back on the nose, you start to get the kind of smokier side of this one, and it does smell a bit like a kind of beach smoked, like a bit of beach smoked malt. Yeah, so there's a wee bit of that beach smoked malt in there, which is nice. Yeah, so beach smoked malt, but you can get the nice oily rice in this one. The rice almost has a little bit of sharpness to it. When it's, whenever you hear the word wild in beer, you always think of like, wild ales and sourness. So there's a wee bit of like I want to say there's maybe a wee bit of sharpness in the top of the nose with this beer, but that's only kind of coming to the fore having smelled it a little bit. So yeah, the malty backbone of this one is really, pardon me, quite interesting, but the smokiness is very subtle, and it's that kind of slightly meaty, it's that kind of slightly meaty, how would you say, that kind of meaty Weirmann, Bambergy, Rauch malt kind of character that I'm getting out of this one. So yeah, the way that goes together in this beer is really quite interesting. Yeah, I think that's everything we really need to say about the malty side of the beer. The yeasty character in this one, at the back of the nose, it's like a mix of white bread and brown bread, and it's got a little touch of sweetness to it. That might actually be from the smoky character. So yeah, all of that is very, visible in this one, I would say. So I really like how that goes together in this beer. But yeah, not much else to report other than that. In terms of the hoppy side of things, it's very much typical with what you would expect from noble hops. So say Strieselspalt is one, because I'm not sure exactly what kind of little characteristics that hop is going to give you. I should have looked that up, as I say, beforehand. But yeah, you're getting very typical German noble qualities out of the hops. So you're getting that lovely kind of smooth earthiness, the wee bit of herbal character, maybe, as I say, a little bit of woodiness from the hops too, but nice bright floral aromaticity and a kind of smoother grassiness at the front of the nose. In terms of the fruity side of the beer, I'd say there's a little bit of in terms of the fruity side of the beer, for me, there's a little bit of like oily pear, maybe wee bits of dried apricot. Sultanas is another one, you know, dry white green grapes, and a little bit of gooseberry. It's a very subtle aroma, this one, but I do like how it goes together. But there's nothing surprising about this beer aroma-wise when you consider what style it is. I thought this one might have been a little bit more pungent than it is, but yeah, I think we'll get more out of the flavour of this one, in honesty. So yeah, as I always say, take a little bit of time to enjoy the aroma of your beer before you get stuck into it, but I think it is about time that we move on to the tasting section in this video. So yeah, let's have a look at this one then. This one is the Blue Plume, a wild rice smoked lager at 5% ABV from Work and Draft Beer Company in Madison, Wisconsin, over in the US. Let's get stuck in. Sláinte, skål, cheers, and a massive thank you once again to the lovely Miss Amanda. Cheers. All right, okay. It's interesting. It's kind of at the back of the palate straight away when you take this in. You get a little bit of almost, you get a wee bit of like smokiness and also kind of some dryness from the rice. It's really interesting how these flavours just piece together, actually. I really like that with this one. And the aftertaste you get from this is really interesting too. It's got a bit more of a kind of punchiness to the flavour. It's got far more punchiness to the flavour in comparison to what I was expecting from the aroma, actually. So yeah, interesting stuff in that regard. Yeah. But yeah, in terms of flavour and stuff of this one, this is very nice. Dangerously easy to drink as well. But very good stuff. So, where do we start with this one then? We'll go to the middle third of the palate. The backbone of the beer, lovely, fresh, white bready bread crust in there. As you move further forward on that middle third of your palate, you just get a little hint of wood out of it. Then you've got the kind of nice Jacob's cream cracker coming out of the beer above that, and then yeah, you start to get the kind of bready layers. So there's a layer of like a kind of slightly sweeter wholemeal brown bread in there, which I really like. So yeah, nice kind of wholemeal brown bread there. Above that you have above that you've got more of a kind of fluffier white bready kind of layer coming out of it. But yeah, the bready layers in this one, because it's European malt, it just has that little bit of like bite or dryness, which is quite nice. Yeah, so the way that goes together, I think, is really nice in this one. Yeah, the wholemeal brown bready layer, the fluffier white bready layer on top of that, and then yeah, you can feel within those bready layers, you do actually get a little bit of the kind of smokiness from the Rauch malt, actually. So some of that starts to come out of this one into the aftertaste, and it's a wee bit, it feels a little bit drier than some of the Rauch malts and things that I've had before, but still it does yeah, it's quite interesting just how that side of the beer pieces together. It shows you a bit more woodiness into the aftertaste too, but yeah, above the how do you say, yeah, above the kind of white bready layer, you start to get a little bit of there's a little bit of a kind of slightly toasty brown sugary layer in there. I don't want to say it's more like a kind of toasty biscuit than a toasty caramel, in all honesty. So yeah, the way that side of it pieces together as well is quite interesting. So yeah, as I say, a nice little bit of a kind of toasty, a nice little bit of a toasty caramelly character coming out of this one. Then above that, you can feel a circle in the middle of your palette, and that's the rice, the kind of oily rice that comes out of this one. It feels, they're saying that this is wild rice. It feels a little bit more kind of grassy, almost. Yeah, it feels a little bit sort of grassier, and it's almost got a very slightly citrusy kind of note to it. So yeah, slightly more grassy and kind of citrusy in its flavour, rather than being really oily and sweet, if you like. So yeah, I do like that about this beer as well. In the dead centre of your palate, you'll feel the more concentrated oily circle, where you get the slightly sweet, caramelly, biscuity notes out of the beer. So yeah, the way that kind of pieces together is also really really interesting. But yeah, I like that with this one. The middle of your palate in this beer is doing some really kind of interesting stuff, and it's just quite an unusual combination. And after 4,000 odd beer reviews, you want things that are going to test your palate a wee bit, and this one certainly does that. But I think we've covered everything we need to say about the middle third of your palate. It's very layered, actually. So, pardon me, yeah. Let's go to the back third of your palate then. As I've often said, sweeter flavours come out further forward on the palate, more dry and bitter flavours come out further back. So yeah, the border region between middle and back third of your palate, you get that nice little bit of bready build up in there. You've got the brown bread in the base, the fluffier white bread in the middle, then there's a wee bit of a more kind of another kind of drier white bread sitting above that. But yeah, the back third of your palate is going to give you very similar flavours to middle third of your palate, but just at different intensities. So yeah, the base of that back third of your palate, you've got a nice you've got a kind of nice fluffier white bready. You've got a little bit of that kind of bread crusty base in there, which feels that little bit drier. Above that, you've got a wee bit of Jacob's cream cracker, of course, and then yeah, you get the layer of wholemeal brown bread, which was a little bit lighter, taller, and more airy. Then above that, you've got the white bready layer, which feels a little bit lighter, taller, and more airy as well. And then yeah, you can feel some of the kind of ricey character just creeping over the top of that. And then you've got the yeasty side of the beer. So let's look at the yeasty side of things on the top of that back third of your palate. So yeah, the yeasty side of things, at its core, it feels like it's a kind of sweeter, like a sweet brown bread. Then it's surrounded by a more white bready character. Yeah, it seems like sweet brown bread at its core, a more fluffy white bready character around the edge, and then yeah, a little bit of a more kind of bread crusty note to it as well. So yeah, the way that pieces together, I think, is quite nice. Yeah, I like that. So yeah, the yeasty side of this one kind of lingers into the aftertaste as well, and it shows you a bit more of the kind of woody and smoky sort of things too. But back third of your palate, you can feel the flavour is taller. Then as you move further forward into the middle third of your palate, it kind of just condenses down and squashes together that wee bit more. I noticed as well that they're saying on one of the tasting notes they've put on this is that it's a little bit nutty, which is interesting for sure. Yeah, because the smokiness in this one, you can feel it as it comes out to the aftertaste. For me, it's a wee bit more meaty, but not quite as pungent in the flavour. So I can see why they would say nutty, actually. Maybe that is a good descriptor for this one. But yeah, let's focus on the hoppy and fruity side of the beer then to round off the tasting. Back corners of the palate, you've got that nice little bit of earthiness in there, quite a smooth earthiness, of course. As you move further forward along the side of the palate, you get a little bit of woodiness and herbal character, and then yeah, as you push further and further forward, you get that little bit of floral aromaticity and a kind of nice spicy character coming out of the beer. So yeah, the way that that goes together is very, very nice as well. Yeah, in terms of the fruity side of things then, for me, or the front third of your palate, we should say. So yeah, the fruity side of the beer is on the front third of your palate. The border region between front third and middle third of your palate, you get that nice little bit of bready build up in there, wee bit of brown bread in the base, and then the white bread on top of it, and a wee bit of the ricey character there too. And then underneath that, you've got the, or on the front third of your palate, you've got the bread crust in the base, the cracker, the brown bread, the white bread, and I can feel a wee bit of the smoothness from the rice just kind of creeping forward. And of course, the bread feels as if it's kind of embalmed in the, yeah, the bread feels as if it's kind of, how do you say, the smoky character kind of emanates from the bready side of things, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So yeah, above that you get that nice oily bubble where the fruity juicy esters push their way out of the beer. So let's have a look at that fruity side of things then. So yeah, the fruity side of this beer for me, it's kind of similar to what I picked up on in the aroma actually. So yeah, I would say at the back of that front third of your palate, it's kind of there's kind of like a little bit of a stronger, there's a slightly stronger citrusy note in there, but yeah, as you move further forward, lovely oily pear, a little, yeah, there's a wee bit of a kind of sultana kind of quality, you know, dried white green grapes. There's a wee bit of that sultana quality on the back half of that, on the back of that front third of your palate. But then yeah, as you move further forward, it becomes more oily and peary, if you like. And then yeah, there's a little bit of how do you say, as you move further, yeah, you've got that little bit of oily and peary character. Then as you move forward into the front half of the front third of your tongue, it's a little bit more kind of gooseberry like, I would say. Yeah, there's a little bit more kind of gooseberry and what's the word, a wee bit more gooseberry and maybe just a very slightly limey character behind the front tip of your tongue when it mixes with the grassy esters. So yeah, it's interesting stuff. This beer's got a lot of interesting kind of flavour combinations to it, and as I say, it certainly has made me think a wee bit. But the more, I think, I'm wondering if that Streuselspalt is a little bit more, it's slightly higher alpha acid, and it's just giving you more spiciness and more kind of grassiness and things like that. And that builds a good bridge with the kind of wild rice that they've got in here, because that ricey character of this one feels a little bit more grassy and things like that in comparison with, you know, the sake rice that's very often used in rice lager beers. So yeah, interesting stuff for sure. I really like how this beer goes together. It's a style that I enjoy, and I enjoy the little subtleties of it, but in reality this one's a very, very easy drinker. So yeah, I think we should round off this review then with a wee quick look at the mouthfeel. So for me, this beer, yeah, I'd say it's kind of in the middle level, the mid-range part of light-bodied. The carbonation is very, very smooth. It does have a wee bit of a, it's got a wee bit of a kind of oily slickness to it, this one, in all honesty. So yeah, I like how that, I do like how that pieces together in this beer. I like the kind of oily slick side of it. Yeah, so nice oily slickness in there, and you do have with the malt base, you've got a wee bit of dryness underneath, smoothness in the middle, and a slightly oily sweetness on top. This beer does get a little bit drier into the aftertaste. It's got a wee bit more bitterness to it as well. I want to say this one's maybe about 25 IBU. I mean, the standard for these is usually 20, but I feel this one's just got a little bit more bitterness to it. And yeah, you've got a nice wee touch of oily, fruity character coming out of this one as well. So yeah, the way that this goes together, I think, is very, very nice, and it gets a big, yeah, it gets a big thumbs up from me. Yeah, I like that with this one. It's, as I say, it's really very, very nicely done. So yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this review. I've really enjoyed this. This was the Blue Plume, a wild rice smoked lager at 5% ABV from Working Draft Beer Company. Made that mistake again, in Madison, Wisconsin. So yeah, cool to do another Wisconsin beer as well. We haven't covered that state too much on the channel. But yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Working Draft as well, and we will see if we can return to these guys again at some point in the fairly near future. But until then, Slanjut, Skull, cheers, check out my social media, check out their social media, and I'll see you guys in another review very, very shortly. Ciao just now.